Supreme Court, which has upheld the constitutional validity of the Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act 2004, which established the Madrasa Board and provided for the administration of madrasas by the Minority Welfare Department. My colleague Sambhav Sharma with us on the broadcast. Sambhav, important news coming in from the Supreme Court. We're learning that the Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act 2004 has been upheld by the Supreme Court, which essentially means that the judgment of the Allahabad High Court given in March this year, which had struck down the act for violating principles of secularism, has been set aside now by the apex court.
Well, absolutely. It's a sigh of relief to around 14,000 madrasas in Uttar Pradesh and a sigh of relief to over 15 lakh students who study in those madrasas. As the Supreme Court today has upheld the constitutional validity of Madrasa Act 2004, which was like, the petitioner has challenged Allahabad High Court's judgment, March 2024 judgment, wherein the Allahabad High Court has questioned and struck down this act, saying it unconstitutional and ultra via to the principle of secularism and fundamental rights, to which Supreme Court today has upheld and somewhere set aside the judgment of the Allahabad High Court. So it's a sigh of relief to the students who are studying in the madrasas. Apart from it, in an important remark, the Chief Justice of India has said that it is a duty and the responsibility of the state, that is the state of Uttar Pradesh, to make the education in the madrasas at par with the education of the modern other schools. Because many a times madrasas education is being questioned on the ground that the education is not at par with that of the education which is given in the modern schools based on the principle of modernity and the science and scientific temperament and all. It's being questioned. Madrasa education is questioned because of that, and many of the hearings happened in the top court as well over it. Today, the Supreme Court said that the responsibility of the state to uphold that the education of the madrasa, the level of education which are given in the recognized madrasas should be at par with the other schools, the education given in the other schools based on the scientific temperament.
Right, absolutely. We also have Major Mohammad Ali Shah joining us on the broadcast on this update. Major Shah, the Supreme Court, while upholding the validity, has still set aside provisions of the Madrasa Act which empower the Madrasa Board to prescribe course of instructions and textbooks for higher education. How do you view this development and this intervention that has been taken by the Supreme Court while it was hearing the case?
I personally feel it's a very welcome step, and see, madrasa education is very important कि madrasa में दीन का education मिलता है. दीन के साथ साथ दुनियादारी का भी शिक्षा मिलनी चाहिए. Maths, science, computers, अंग्रेजी. I mean, people, madrasa education will not help them get jobs. They graduate on and open and broaden their horizons and their perspective. So when the Supreme Court on Tuesday, in fact, today only, when they upheld the constitutional validity of the Uttar Pradesh Board of the Madrasa Education Law of 2004, which is overturning a verdict by the Allahabad High Court that had declared the law unconstitutional earlier. Now the High Court had argued that the law violated the principle of secularism, but the Supreme Court disagreed with this assessment. And whatever the law decides, whatever the court decides, whether people are in conjunction or not, it should be honored. I personally feel we should be law-abiding citizens of a country, should always respect the law. Now, the Chief Justice of India, the CJI, Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, he delivered the judgment, stated that we have upheld the validity of the UP Madrasa law, and moreover, a state can be struck down only if the state lacks the legislative competence. Now, this bench, which also included justices like J.B. Paridwala and Manoj Mishra, they had pointed out that the Allahabad High Court had erred in holding the law violated and the secularism principle. The Supreme Court clarified that the legislative intent behind the law was to standardize the level of education which was being provided in madrasas, including uniformity and quality. Now, people normally have a wrong perception of madrasas, but madrasas are basically, they provide education, I agree.
Yes.
But I think education in terms of the world. I went to a Catholic school, I
Okay.
to St. Joseph's, and thereafter I went to Lawrence School, Lovedale, the boarding school. But we had a cathedral in our school as well. So the formation, our thinking is slightly more modern comparatively. Now, when you open your horizons and you see the world, you have to change with the times. As Charles Darwin's theory says, survival of the fittest. So, which means you got to adapt, you got to change with the modern times.
Okay, all right. Okay, I want to bring in
Yes.
Dr. Lubna Kamal into the conversation as well. Dr. Lubna Kamal, how do you view the developments that have taken place? Because somewhere the court has said that a law cannot be struck down, rather can be struck down for violation of fundamental rights under Part 3 of the Constitution or on grounds of legislative competence, but not for violation of basic structure. So it's a legality over which the Supreme Court has set aside the Allahabad High Court judgment, but certain pertinent points were raised when the matter was being heard before the Allahabad High Court, which essentially spoke about the quality of education that is being imparted in madrasas compared to other education institutions. What is it that one now needs to take away from this entire argument, rather than focusing on the fact that the Supreme Court has set aside the Allahabad High Court judgment? Dr. Lubna Kamal, I'm going to request you to unmute yourself, ma'am. Okay, we seem to be having a problem with Dr. Lubna Kamal's audio there. Advocate Shashank Shekhar Jha also with us on the broadcast. Advocate Shekhar Jha, I just want to understand from you the same aspect. If you can explain to our viewers the basis on which the Supreme Court has set aside the Allahabad High Court judgment, and what is it that it has upheld as far as the previous judgment is concerned, which was regarding understanding and improving the quality of education that's imparted in madrasas.
Namaste Divika ji and the viewers here. Divika ji, we need to understand two things. What Supreme Court did in the first place is Supreme Court has said that madrasa could not offer Kamil and Fazil as their degree. Kamil and Fazil are degrees for undergraduate and postgraduate, equivalent to those. So Supreme Court has said that these are unconstitutional, as these are the basis on which UGC can only grant degrees and not any private body. So for that point, Madrasa Act, which was brought by Mulayam Singh Yadav in 2004, was supposedly giving these degrees. So Supreme Court has called out these two degrees and called that these are unconstitutional. As far as the remaining act, Supreme Court has said that these can continue and these are not ultra vires to constitution and cannot be quashed, and has in fact reversed or stayed the judgment of the Honorable High Court of Allahabad, Lucknow bench. I respectfully disagree with the Supreme Court judgment here. I feel that Supreme Court in its judgment has requested or suggested the government to bring madrasa education equivalent to that of the normal education which secular schools give to the students. However, in 2024, we have seen that the child right body, the top child right body in India, has categorically stated that these madrasa education is unfit for the education of the student. They cannot actually bring those education of madrasa equivalent to those of the neutral schools. Also, one unfortunate fact which I think Supreme Court has unfortunately ignored was that in 2011, Madrasa was exempted from RTE Act. So that means right to education also doesn't, cover those madrasa. So it completely violates secularism. I don't know why Supreme Court passed this judgment today, but the unfortunate part, Devika ji, here is that no other education sector has such vast power like Madrasa Act in Uttar Pradesh. So, a state government bringing it was an unfortunate fact, and today Supreme Court continuing it while reversing the judgment of the Honorable High Court of Allahabad. I guess these both are unfortunate. Central government or for that matter Uttar Pradesh government must take an action and take those students out of madrasa student. I was just reading the stats before coming to your channel, and I have this understanding that there are 25,000 madrasas in Uttar Pradesh alone, out of which 16,000 madrasas are recognized by this act, and other 8,000 are not recognized. So those students studying there, what are they studying in those acts? We need to see that they are studying Arabic, Urdu, Persian, Islamic studies, Tib, and philosophy. How can they, come equivalent to anyone who are studying in, say, Kendra Vidyalaya or, say, convent school, which are secular in nature or which are, very much covered by RTE Act? So these are segments we need to understand that we are talking about children here, and when we are talking about scientific temperament, we cannot ignore these aspects. If the prime minister of the country is forced to say that in one hand I want to give Quran and in the other hand I want to give computer, you cannot do this with madrasa education. In the madrasa education, they are literally teaching you who is a kafir or what is a jihad. So do you want such type of education for students who are kinder in their nature or of their age? So I guess law which was there to provide framework of madrasa was very much anti-secular. They were for religious and cultural studies, and we need to understand that India is a country in the 21st century, and India cannot afford a religious education only for one religion, that too with state funded. Who is funding this state? The Hindus. Who is taking leverage of it? The madrasa education, which is run by Islamic educationists. So I guess this is very unfortunate for this country and Uttar Pradesh as a whole, and this entire Madrasa Board Act should abolish. Not only this, but those madrasas which are running without UP Madrasa Act board affiliation, those 8,500 odd madrasas, they should also go away. Because in Uttar Pradesh, we have Devband. Devband is that organization which is giving the religious teachings to Taliban itself. So how can we allow such Barelvis or Taliban mindset in this country?
Okay,
so I am very disappointed. Being a officer of this court, I respectfully disagree with the Supreme Court judgment. There is one more aspect, Devika ji, last point. Before Supreme Court categorically asked Uttar Pradesh government as to what is your stand, because it was a law brought by Uttar Pradesh government, but Uttar Pradesh government was not in challenge before the Supreme Court, but regular practitioners were there. So Uttar Pradesh said that we want to stand with our law which was brought by the previous government of 2004. But I really feel that the current regime of Uttar Pradesh under Yogi Adityanath must take a stand and must abolish this UP Madrasa Board Act, because you cannot. Because there's a paradox.
All right. Okay. Advocate Shashank, I want to bring in Dr. Lubna Kamal into the conversation as well. I want to leave the last word with her. Dr. Lubna Kamal, your thoughts on the decision of the Supreme Court, but at the same time, the court also saying that one must look into the education level that is being followed as far as madrasas are concerned. Okay, we continue to have that audio problem with Dr. Lubna Kamal. I want to bring in Sumit Peer also with us on the broadcast. Sumit, what is your perspective on what has taken place in the court today as far as this particular judgment is concerned? Yes, it is a huge relief to the madrasas, but at the same time, one has to read the finer print of the judgment as well.
Devika ji, well, a couple of points here. First of all, with due respect to the Supreme Court and its judgment, which we have to all abide, but like what my fellow panelists were saying, I respectfully disagree as a citizen of the India, because there are a couple of points which I want to make to the point. Look, in UP, we have something called as a jugaad. You know what is a jugaad? They have a wooden platform, they put a diesel generator and a handle and use it to transport sugarcane. We call it a jugaad. That is where the word jugaad comes from. Now, if you want me to put a Toyota logo in front of it or a Mercedes logo in front of it, will it become a Toyota and a Mercedes? It can never become, because fundamentally it is not there. So if we think of, we can bring madrasas at par with the ISB or a Delhi University or a, a Sri Ram College of Commerce, well, that is not going to happen. Let's face it practically. They don't have infrastructure. They don't have the mindset. They don't have the things. Unfortunately, these Muslim kids who are stuck with madrasas are unfortunate casualty of this law, because they will end up not getting the opportunities which they deserve as the young and vibrant students of India. They won't deserve that. Point number two, look at the India. We have 300 million, 30 crore students in the world, which is highest in the world. We have 1200 universities, ma'am, again second highest in the world. We have 50,000 schools. We have 8.5 million teachers, and we have the capacity to add another 5 crore, 50 million students to the existing system without upgrading a penny into it. Now my question is, if these 15 lakh students, 1.5 million students are stuck with madrasas, we have zero opportunity cost of migrating them to the system which is at par with every Indian. Doesn't this fundamentally violate the rights of that student who is studying in that madrasa? He doesn't even get the privilege of the education which you and me, all the people of this panel, have got. So in a way, it is discriminatory. It is depriving these people of these rights what they should have. You are deciding for a kid who does not have the legality or the morality or even the intellect to decide his future, because by the time he or she is 18, you would have already branded him a madrasa student. And this Fazil and Kamil degrees, which were kind of started, are a parallel institution on its own. How can somebody staying in a house, run a madrasa and give you a certificate? Arey Baba, it is the height of everything. What is this Fazil and Kamil? Then what is the UGC doing? Then close all the universities. If madrasas can be brought at par with the universities, then I have a suggestion. I'm being sarcastic here. Then why don't you have madrasas run the whole education system of the India? You will be able to run it at 1,000 the price, and you will have the capacity of 600 million then. Well, practically, Devikaji, that is not going to happen. It is unfortunate. You might look at it as a melting pot of religions and all. Everybody has a right to think over that. But what about those kids? What about those 15 lakh kids? What happens to their future? And what about those 8,000 unregulated, unrecognized madrasas here? And let me put the last point. I am not trying to compare apples with oranges. Let me take a size of 15 lakh madrasa students and take a size from any school, college, university, anywhere in India, 15 lakh normal educated students like you and me and everybody on this panel, which look at the history of last 75 years, which have done better. Look at mathematically last 75 years which have done better. मैं 15 लाख का size ले रहा हूँ. I'm not comparing oranges with the pineapples. No. 15 lakh idhar ka, 15 lakh udhar ka. Now, when you look at the historical data, when you look at the empirical evidence which is available with you, you will find that the people in the formal education have done much better. And when we know the radicalization is happening, when we know ISI is active, when we know this red jihad is happening, when we know there are Chinese interests, the conflicting things, why are we giving them breeding grounds? That is my limited question and take on this. Deprive them from these breeding grounds. The children with young minds are of clay. You can put anything in their head, and when they grow as adults, this will become your problem. But curtail the problem when it is young. Why do you want to put them in the hands of mullahs and maulvis when we have 5 crore more kids which can be accommodated even today in the formal system of where we have already 30 crore kids, which are 30 crore students which are studying, and 78% of them are in schools. Now, if that is the number, where does the logic stand mathematically? Okay. I don't know, man.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.